Hi everyone, welcome to the Alumni UK Storytelling for Job Interviews webinar. My name is Semra Yalçındoğan. I am the Education Manager at the British Council based in Turkey. Today, I'm joined by Seher Sayman, founder of Ask Consulting. We warmly welcome her. Before starting the webinar, I just want to tell you who we are. We are the United Kingdom's international organization for cultural relations and education opportunities, working with over 100 countries globally. We welcome UK alumni across 15 countries in our region. The webinar will be delivered in English and the session will last about 45 minutes. We'll record this webinar and share it widely. Our panelists will be happy to answer your questions. Please write them in the chat or Q&A section. We'll do the questions at the end. Now, I would like to invite Seher to deliver her presentation. Seher, over to you.
Thank you, dear Semra. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that we meet you today. Let me open my presentation for a moment. Yes. I think it is clear now. Perfect. Welcome to today's webinar, which is held by British Council Storytelling for Job Interviews. My name is Seher Sayman. I'm an HR consultant. I'm a professional coach and also the founder of Ask Consulting. I'm also an alumni. I graduated from King's College London in 2009. I'm feeling grateful to be a part of this great community, and also I feel appreciated that British Council still supports alumni abroad. Therefore, I'm grateful. And today you have taken a great step towards leveling up your job interview skills, and I'm so grateful that I will be a part of this. So let's start slowly. The people are coming as far as I can see. Few people coming in, and it's great that all participants from all around the world joining us today. And let's go on with the agenda of today. So, the art of storytelling has becoming increasingly common in recent years, and stories are not only fairy tales for kids, they are also important communication tools for adults, not only among family or friends, but also in professional life. Stories are powerful tool for polishing our personal brand, for emphasizing our strengths. And today we are going to discover how we are going to use the stories in business environments. Let's look at the agenda. So what we will cover today? First of all, we are going to look at together what is storytelling, what is story, so the basics of story. And then we are going to see the elements of a great story, how we can build up a great story. Then job interviews. Either we are at the beginning of our business life or in the middle of our career. Job interviews are turning points. So we will see how we can make use of stories for achieving better results at job interviews. And then we are going to see some tips for avoiding the common pitfalls that stories might come across with. And then we will have a conclusion part, and we will end our webinar with questions from your side. So, what is storytelling and what is a story? Story is not facts, story is not figures, story is not a list. However, when you put facts, figures, and lists in a story format, it creates the audience engaged and have the attention, both intellectually and also emotionally. Stories can be sometimes short as a tweet, or sometimes stories can be long as a book or even a movie. So stories have different formats. Stories are important because of three reasons. And these reasons are: stories shapes how other people see you. How is their perception about you? Research shows that stories that others tell about you influence how the other people see you, and they make the decisions whether they are going to work with you or they are going to buy the product that you sell. So it is a really important decision criteria about our personal branding. Another important thing that makes stories really grateful is stories are tools of power. When you use a story, you create listeners, and listening is a form of power. So if you have the stories, then you are powerful in a communication. And the third reason is stories persuade people. Research shows that when you tell a fact with a story, it is 22 times more likely to be memorable by the listener. So these facts make stories really powerful communication tool. So what is storytelling? Storytelling, I call it an art. Storytelling is an art of narrating stories in a way that engages the listener. So what happens exactly when we hear a story? How does our brain react when we hear a story? Neuroscience research shows that our brains are not hardwired to understand logic or even retain facts for a very long time. Our brain is in fact wired to understand and retain the stories. So what is going on in our brain when we listen to a story? Actually, when we listen to a story, our brain does not only listen. Things are happening in our brain. Our brain reacts with sensory and emotional responses. Let's see these responses so that we understand what exactly happens in our brain. First of all, dopamine release, especially when we hear stories that are exciting and emotional. Our brain releases dopamine, and dopamine hormone is associated with the feeling of reward and motivation. Therefore, listener wants to listen more when we hear a story. Empathy and mirror neurons. Thanks to our mirror neurons, when we hear a story, our mirror neurons feels that they are inside the story. For example, when there is a character that is happy in the story or that the character is excited, we feel that we are excited too. We feel that we are happy too. So this creates an ability to empathize with the storyteller. Another thing happening in our brain is making sense and connection. Our brains like to relate abstract information into meaningful contexts, such as stories, rather than processing it in isolation. Therefore, even complex data or big data gets really easy to remember when it is related with a story. And as the last, maybe the most important part, stories creates attachment and trust in our brains. When stories are told, our brain releases oxytocin hormone, and this hormone strengthens the feeling of trust and commitment. Therefore, stories strengthens the bond between the storyteller and listener. So, what is the structure of a story? How a story should be get together? In which parts? When we tell a story, we take our listeners to a journey, but this journey should be in a structured way. And that structure starts with the scene. What is going on? Where did the story happen? What was the time and the place of the story? This is where you begin your story. And the second part is the action part. And this is where you have overcome with an obstacle or you have a life-changing event on your life. This is the middle of your story. And in this part, the storyteller should explain the main character. How does he or she feels? How did he or she reacts to the situation? And then the part that everyone waits for, result. How did the story end? Was it a happy end or a sad end? So here we see an example of a change management behavior explained with a story. The launch date of a project that I managed has changed. So the content is given, even shortly, but it has given. And then the character contacts with all stakeholders and takes necessary actions. As a result, the project finalized smoothly and successfully. In this example, as you can see, we do not see the details. The question answered really shortly. Let's break this down more. Here you see two examples. On the left side, the example shortly describes the career change in his or her life. I taught English for 5 years. I decided to change careers. I became a data scientist by training. Whereas on the right side, this career change story is delivered in details. Let's read it together. I'm an English teacher, and ever since I was a child, I always wanted to be a teacher. Although I love my job, it was very difficult for me to try to overcome the difficulties of bureaucracy in each of my innovative applications. By the end of the 5th year, these difficulties were so exhausting that I had lost my enthusiasm for teaching. I knew I had to change careers, but I've been a teacher for so long that I didn't even think I could do any other profession. I had to choose a profession that would allow me to unleash my creativity. While I was thinking about which profession, a friend of mine told me about his data science specialization and recommended me a course. After an intense period of training and sleepless nights, I had found a profession that would reveal my creativity. Of course, it was not easy for me to get a job again. Many of my job applications were negative. Months later, I got the job I dreamed of, and I'm very happy. So this long story, let's break this down into the structure which I presented you a few slides ago. So in this case, the content. The content is, I'm an English teacher. Ever since I was a child, I always wanted to be a teacher. So here we understand that the storyteller expresses the beginning of everything. And then there comes the action, the part that the storyteller has difficulty and how he or she overcomes the difficulty. And as a result, this story ends up with a career change. So these main three structure is the method that you can easily imply to all your stories. So we have mentioned about the storytelling is the art of conveying your experience. in a structured, engaging, and memorable way. And this is exactly what we are achieving in a job interview. To be a memorable candidate among the candidate pool. We can make our past experiences come alive in job interviews. Storytelling can turn your career experiences into engaging narratives that demonstrates and highlights your skills, your values, your strengths, and your potential. By mastering storytelling structure, you can transform how interviewers see you and how they make a decision about your application. In this slide, you can see some examples that can come to you when during a job interview. Describing a situation when you solve a problem. Describing a situation when you overcame a challenge. Describing a situation when you worked as a leader. So all of these questions are great opportunities for you to present yourself with a story. But how? So to tell a story, we have as we have mentioned, we have a structure. But to be really memorable candidate, we have to use these tips and use this structure. And what are the main tips for creating an engaging story for yourself in an interview? First of all, rehearsal. Rehearsal is your cornerstone when getting ready for an interview. You can rehearse in front of a mirror. You can rehearse with different audiences, your friends, your family. And every time you have feedback from them, you polish your story in the best way that it can reach to the audience. Every time you practice your story, you get better and better. And this repetition will help you memorize your story without sounding scripted or without sounding artificial. So when you do the rehearsal, please pay attention not only the content, but also your pace, your voice, your body language. These dimensions will create a stronger story. And secondly, staying genuine. Interviewers can really understand if the candidate is presenting a story that belongs to him or someone else. So being authentic is vital for storytelling in job interviews. Choose real life experiences, experiences that shaped your career, your achievements, or sometimes your failures. Being vulnerable will also make you a stronger candidate in an interview. This will make the interviewer more relatable and build trust with you and interviewer. And third, adapt yourself. So you have a narrative, you have a story about yourself, a success story, your career story, but you are also applying different jobs. You are applying to different companies. You are applying to different companies with different values or sometimes with different positions. So you should know the company's requirements and company's values so that you can tailor your own story according to the company you apply for, according to the position you apply for. This will also help you responding dynamically to the coming questions. And fourth, be aware. When you are using stories in job interviews, pay attention to the listener, if she stays focused or not. There will be some nonverbal cues like nodding, facial expressions, or body language. Adapt your energy according to the listener's nonverbal cues. And also, this will help you to be aware of the time. Because interviewers see a lot of candidates and they have specific time for each candidate. Don't be so long, be concise, and be to the point. Being specific in stories will help you achieve better results. For example, when telling your achievement in business life, vague statements like "I managed a team" will lack detail and fail to impress the interviewee. However, when you say "I led a team of 10 to complete a project 3 weeks ahead, and we increased efficiency by 20%. So this will embellish your unique contribution, and detailed stories demonstrate credibility more. So these are the 5 main tips for effective storytelling. But I add one more thing, and this is the most important part of telling a story. These 5 steps will help you to build up a strong story, but the most important thing is to know yourself. When you know yourself, then you know your strengths, you know your values, you know your skills, and you can build up your own story according to your own existence. And for this, it is necessary to be alone, stay with yourself, and discover your own potential first. And how are we going to do that? How do we know ourselves enough that we can present ourselves in job interviews with stories? Here I call looking for meaningful moments in your life. When you look at your past, your training experience, your work experience, all your projects, in all these main steps of your careers, you have meaningful moments. Something interesting happened to you, or something surprising happened to you. This can be a failure, this can be a success, this can be a conflict, this can be an obstacle. So try to find these meaningful moments, and from that moments, try to create your own stories where you can easily express yourself either in a job interview or in a professional life. So here I took the Aristotle's sentence, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. When you know yourself, when you know your own story, then this will create a stronger candidate presence in front of the interviewers. How this is going to happen? Now I would like all of you to focus because I know when I'm telling this, you are thinking about your past, maybe you are thinking about your resume, maybe you are thinking about your previous job. So now please narrow down your search. Focus your search. So these 3 points, try to remember time and places. Your first job, who was your boss? Was it a good boss or a bad boss? How was the team you worked with? Was it a really good dynamic team, or everyone was in conflict with each other? Try to find a specific project in that particular job with that particular team and boss. Or try to remember your high school. Do you remember any conflicts from your high school? Maybe with your classmate, or a competition. Maybe you were in the basketball team, or maybe you were doing swimming. Or maybe try to remember your university, your grades, any project that made you successful or unsuccessful. So these are the way that we look for our history and try to find meaningful moments in our life. I call this story safari. So after this webinar, maybe everyone will take some notes about their story. So let's continue with job interviews. So this question is maybe the most common question in job interviews, right? Tell us about yourself. And this question is too vague. We don't know where to start. we don't know how we present ourselves. And here I have 5 steps to do this in a way that shows your skills. First of all, set the stage. Don't try to give so much details. Find the main points of your career life, and then this will be your framework. Map out your growth. Here, don't summarize your CV because interviewee, he or she already has your CV. Here, what you have to do is finding the growth moment, finding your own contribution in every step in your resume, and then showcase your wins. Don't be humble here. Interviewer would like to hear your strengths. What have you achieved so far? Then bridge all these past experience with your current application. So how did the 2 previous positions bring you to this position? Create the bridge. And then show your motivation. Aim big, but also stay grounded. Let's look at an example. So here is the question the same. Tell us about yourself. And the candidate replies, I began my professional journey as a junior analyst, where I quickly developed a passion. So he set the stage. We know where he started his career. And then I tasked with leading a project to streamline, which resulted in 30% accuracy, 30% reducing time. And this sparked my interest. So there is a shift in the career, but also an achievement, right? And it goes on. Over the years, I transitioned into more senior roles. So the growth comes again, taking on responsibilities like managing cross-functional teams and mentoring junior analysts. So we start from beginning and then we came to the growth point. And then currently I'm seeking a role where I can leverage my skills in analytics and leadership to solve complex problems. And I'm particularly excited about this opportunity. And here the candidate puts motivation clearly. So we have seen the structure of a story. We have seen the tips for creating an effective story. What are the common pitfalls and what we can do to avoid them? First of all, when we found our stories and when we try to express them, don't load too much detail. The interviewer would like to listen only the important information. Take out all the extra information from that story. When you do the practice, summarize the key points. And these key points should be in alignment with the interviewer's interest. Neglecting the result. So you start with an interesting story, you tell the barrier, but you forget to tell the result. Business world focuses on results. So here the result is really important, and this result should be measurable. Follow the structure, otherwise you will lose the attention and concentration of the listener. And your position might be really technical, but interviewer maybe doesn't know that much technical words. Try to use clear terms. And lastly, rehearse and polish. With every rehearsal, have your feedbacks and then continue. So as a conclusion, key takeaways from this storytelling for job interviews webinar. Storytelling is a powerful tool for job interviews. So know that you have your CV and also know that you have your superpower of storytelling. Try to create an image of memorable candidate with your stories. Before the interview, tailor your stories according to the position you apply for and the company you apply for. And in life, today, tomorrow, every time, try to find your own stories and write them down like little notes. These will be all your own stories. And before the interview, practice with different kinds of audience. So this was the end of my webinar. I'm really glad that you joined this webinar. I hope you found it all valuable. Now I would like to have your questions, and I would like to wish best of luck with all job interviews.
Seher, thank you very much. There is one thing that I actually associate with our job interviews. You said measurable outcome should be reflected. Indeed, actually, when we even look at the Alumni Awards results, the jury members look for impact the applicants made. They want to see the results. What did you achieve? By numbers, whatever it is, they need to see the outcome. So I activated the chat section. I see some thank you messages. And please write if you have any questions. Or we are a small number of people here. If you raise your hands, I can even give you an access to share your question with your own voice. Any questions?
Semra, maybe until the question comes, I might say that the business world takes action with data. So data is important. Either if it's a strategic plan or it's a candidate review, data is everything.
I agree. As I said, it is everywhere. Even the projects that we deliver, the impact, the data, what you achieve with that. They want to hear the story. When it comes to, job interview, again, they want to see the impact you made, basically. Anna is writing, I think, a question, just waiting for the question now. In the meantime, any other questions? It would have been nice maybe to make it like a trial with a candidate here or between us, but unfortunately we didn't plan such kind of interview to show them that maybe bad and good example of job interview. Maybe next time.
Maybe we can do like actually everyone can create their own stories, and in another session we can give each other feedbacks on our personal stories, because these stories are not only job interviews. We are going to use them in our business life. So I really believe, and when we listen to someone else's story, we get inspired by it. So maybe we can do another interactive webinar where we can hear each other.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if there's an interest, we can certainly arrange that kind of webinar in future. Ece is writing, so just
I'm
waiting.
wondering about how maybe the story safari, when we get on a safari and try to see the elephant, try to see the jaguar. So we have to look at our lives and see the stories hidden between the lines of our CV, because it's a line, but there is a story. Maybe everyone can look at their CV and find the story.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see any questions coming. You are there, Seher.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you were frozen for a minute, for a sec. Then let's close the session. Well, we have come to the end of our session, and Seher, thank you for this great presentation, and also thank you all alumni for joining us today. And we hope that you found the webinar interesting and useful. Please, we'll send you a feedback form. Please write if you are interested in something practical about job interview. Maybe we can arrange that as well. For now, thank you and have a good evening. It must be very late in some countries already. And see you next time. Seha, thank you very much.
I thank you for this great opportunity. I hope this short webinar has been an inspiration point for the participants, and we are here for supporting them for the professional growth.
Exactly. That's what we are trying to achieve. Thank you and have a good evening all. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.